is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure.
So as these shutter speeds become lower, you're going to get more and more movement. That's how you get these pictures of waterfalls, where the waterfalls are like satin sheets and stuff, because they leave the shutter speed open long enough to get that. Okay, at 500th of a second, you're not going to get that. You're going to get gleaming little drops of water with the sun hitting them. But you slow it down, you'll start getting that. The longer it stays open. Now the thing is you can only handhold it just for so long until you start getting movement in the image. And I'll tell you right now, you can have the best shot in the world, but if it's got camera movement, it's worthless. Okay, so you have to work down. You'll probably not be able to hold it still under a 30th of a second. There have been times, when I've been able to, and other people have, but typically when you get to a 30th of a second, and a lot of that is because of your heartbeats beating every second, and you'll catch a heartbeat in the camera. Okay, anyway, so you need a tripod at that point. Or, well, no, that's pretty much it. You're going to need a tripod. So, okay. So when you do something like this, now, if you leave that shutter speed open enough, your subject will go by and you don't even see anything with the background. And a good example of that is in school, one of the projects was to shoot a scene that came out differently than you expected. Well, I went down, I'm in Atlanta, and I went down to Little Five Points, which was just crowded as everything at lunchtime. So I went down with this box camera. It's just a shoe box with a hole in it and a piece of 4x5 film in the end. Okay, so you make a little hole, everything's in focus, you set it somewhere. And I set it on some steps off to the side, lifted the card, and let it sit there and expose for, an hour. Anyway, so I got back, developed it, and what had happened was everything in the whole scene, if it had any movement at all, it had moved so much to where it was gone. I mean, it wasn't registering anymore. And so I got an A in the course at that point, because the teacher looked at it and he goes, "My God, it looks like 5 Points is a ghost town." Well, that's right. You don't see people walking. There's no cars. It's like nothing's there. Okay, so that's what happens when you get long exposures. For instance, and I've got some pictures I can talk about as far as, like, if you put your camera on a tripod and a car goes by, you stop it at 1/25th of a second, boom, okay? 60th of a second, it's going to start stretching on you. And you shoot them at the same spot. 30th of a second stretches more, 1/8 stretches more, quarter stretches more, and by the time you get down to a second, you don't even see the car anymore. All you see is the road, because it's gone past, and that was the end of that. Okay. The other way, of course, everything stops faster. I mean, you can catch a guy in midair at 500th of a second, dead stopped. So anyway, and what you can do is you can play with this a little bit. You can, like, look at a fan that's turning in the room and blink at it really quick, and you'll see the fan stop for a second, almost as a still image. And then the next time, blink, keep your eye open a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer, and a little longer. And what will happen is you'll see that fan start getting movement and more movement and more movement, and then finally it's just turning. And if you were to shoot a picture of it at a second, it wouldn't even look like it had arms to it or fan blades. Okay. So now, when you're shooting with shutter speed, you have to compensate with the aperture to get a good exposure. So you may want to use your camera on shutter priority mode. I'll go over this in another video. So Now, some of the creative sides of shutter speed like this is slow your shutter down. And say you're taking a picture of a dog running. Okay, dogs frozen in space, I mean, to me, are kind of boring. That's easy to do. What if you slow down that shutter speed and pan with that dog while you're shooting? And what happens is there are parts of him that are going to be sharp, and there are other parts, like his paws, are going to take on a little bit of a movement, and the background is going to take on this sweeping movement. Stuff like that, okay? That's a good effect, and it works out really cool. You get a lot of neat shots like that. Athletes that are running, focus on them. And when they, get a little bit of, just slow down your shutter speed a little bit, and the peripheral stuff will move a little bit, but right where you got focus will stay. And you got to play with that shutter speed, do some testing to see what shutter speed works best for you in any move. And any photograph you want to take that involves shutter speed, I would do a quick test just to see the effect of that. Because like I said, the best picture in the world, if it's got camera movement, too much, it's not any good. You're not going to be able to do anything with it. Okay. So I'll be going over this again, about the priorities and how to use them, and the aperture priority, and shutter priority modes. So I hope that helped clear that up a little bit. Here again, it's mimicking the eye of blinking. You blink fast, it stops it. You open your eye and leave it open for a minute, everything's moving. Okay? It's physics. It's just the way it is. Okay? So thanks for tuning in. And please come back. And until then, shoot like crazy.
We now return control of your television set to you. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set.